Stories in live service games are always expanding, always evolving, always being added onto, just always going on. And ultimately, that's a good thing. There's something really beautiful about stories in live service games. World of Warcraft is nearly 20 years old now, and that game's story has evolved and expanded over its life, adding on to the stories from the Warcraft games before it, and being supported by all the different books, comics, and other bits of media that have been released over the years. And again, this is really beautiful. A franchise that people love that still gets added onto to this day. I'm sure there are a lot of people that enjoyed a TV series that only lasted for 2 seasons, and they wish the show continued so they could experience more of the show's story, but they can't. And World of Warcraft players are very fortunate to have been able to experience this game's story for the last 20 years, and will continue to do so in the future. But there are some core issues with this idea that I want to talk about. The first is directly related to the evolution of the story. As World of Warcraft's story has evolved over the years, it has quite obviously done exactly that. The story and the world people are playing through today are completely different than that of 20 years ago. A plethora of different story beats have occurred that have changed the world as a whole. New characters have been introduced, some characters have died, some characters have been forgotten. We've gone to a variety of different continents, planets, and dimensions. We've interacted with countless different races and factions, and have conquered a variety of world-ending threats. For every single person in the world generally has different interests, different things that speak out to them, different values in a story, where a lot of different people hold different feelings for each of the expansions. If you asked every single World of Warcraft player what their favorite expansion was, you would get a variety of different answers. You'll see some answers be more popular, like Wrath of the Lich King and Legion, whereas you'll see some answers be less popular, like Warlords of Draenor and Shadowlands. But every single expansion will have people that consider that expansion to be their favorite. And each expansion has a very unique story with different elements that will stick out to people differently. I am someone who absolutely loves Arthas and his character. As such, Wrath of the Lich King sticks out to me a lot. Likewise, I think Deathwing is cool, but he's definitely not my favorite character or anywhere near the top, so Cataclysm sticks out a fair bit less to me. But there are people who hold Deathwing as their all-time favorite character in the game, and they absolutely love Cataclysm because of him. And this idea is true with every expansion and every story beat told throughout each expansion. Both Wrath of the Lich King and Cataclysm have stories that relate to different characters, ideas, and areas than just Arthas and Deathwing respectively. Where some people really enjoy certain eras of the game because of the world building and story beats present in each of those eras. I think nowadays this is a bit of a hot take, but I personally really do not enjoy the Cataclysm and Mists of Pandaria stories. I started playing the game in the Burning Crusade, fell in love with the old world, loved exploring Outlands and Northrend, loved all of the characters, and with the release of Cataclysm that drastically changed the old world and progressed the story in a direction that I enjoyed significantly less than before, the game became much less enjoyable for me. Likewise, there are people who absolutely love the story of Mists of Pandaria and consider it World of Warcraft's greatest expansion. Similarly, there are people who love the Legion storyline and consider that to be the game's greatest story and expansion, where I have been exploring and playing through that story a lot recently, and I've been having a hard time enjoying it as much as others do. And no matter what you like, which era you enjoy playing through more, or what stories you enjoy the most, you are entitled to all of that. Video game stories are a creative media, and everyone responds to stories differently. But if you fall in love with one area of World of Warcraft, and it begins moving in a different direction, you will likely enjoy it less and less as time goes on. It took me a few years after Wrath of the Lich King finished to get fed up with the game and call it good until Classic released, and I'm definitely sad with the overall direction of World of Warcraft's story in the years since Wrath of the Lich King, but on the other hand, I am happy with it because I'm glad that the story has evolved in a way that other people appreciate. It would be narcissistic of me to assume that the entire game has to revolve around my own interests and tastes, for ultimately, I enjoy what I enjoy, I engage with what I enjoy, and I don't touch the rest. But this transitions us into the second major issue with live service stories, and that is people being obsessed with the game's story. This is super relevant when we look at each expansion going into the next, where a ton of people will consider each expansion stories to be worse than the ones before it. And as each expansion rolls around, people will complain and complain about the story. Over the years, I see this most with both vanilla and the original quote-unquote trilogy that includes vanilla, but also the Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King, where I am definitely to blame for this because I've literally already talked about my views on these expansions, and and the future expansions earlier, but I just don't enjoy Cataclysm onwards as much as the original trilogy, largely for the story, but you can also look at gameplay perspectives as well. Where I think this crowd of people are very loud when it comes to making sure that everyone knows what expansions they enjoy and don't enjoy. And I know back in the day I was definitely loud about it, but reflecting on that experience and on the expansions as a whole, I realized the ideas that I just mentioned. I enjoy what I enjoy, I engage with what I enjoy, and I don't touch the rest. World of Warcraft is a video game. It is a story. If I don't like the video game or the story, I'm just not going to play it. My entire life doesn't revolve around this game. This game isn't my entire personality, and it is okay if the game evolves in a direction that I don't agree with. But it took me a long time to get to this point. In some ways, I felt betrayed that the game evolved into something that I didn't enjoy, but now it's okay that it has become a game that other people enjoy in my absence. And I think this is something that a lot of people really struggle with when it comes to a game like World of Warcraft. Part of it comes from the alchemical mixture that is the Warcraft universe itself. It's a pretty enthralling and enchanting universe that can really take a hold of people. People fall in love with this game and the world, and rightfully so. It's an absolutely beautiful fantasy world, but when you fall in love with this world and you feel like the world is being taken away from you, it really hurts. But the game will always be evolving, the story will always continue moving forward. And this then brings us to the third major issue with live service games, which is when you need to figure out where to cut yourself off from the game. And this consists in two major aspects that are pretty distinct from one another. The first aspect is continuing from what we were just talking about, where this is a direct experience that I have had in my life. You need to figure out at what point in the game's evolution you truly do not enjoy the game anymore, and you need to cut yourself off from the game. For me, I began enjoying it less and less with Cataclysm and into Mr. Pandaria, where I eventually called it quits because I did not enjoy the story and other elements of the game anymore. A lot of people quit playing in the Burning Crusade because there were elements of both the story and the gameplay that they didn't enjoy anymore. Some people quit in Wrath, some people quit in Cata, some in Mop, some in WoD, and so on and so forth with each expansion. As the War Within releases, people will be quitting the game forever because they just don't enjoy the story anymore. Likewise, many people will be joining the game and falling in love with the world as well. But if you truly do not enjoy the story anymore, and it pains you to play the game, it might be best to put it down. It's definitely a very difficult idea because this is a world that you fall in love with, but if you can no longer find elements of the world you enjoy, you should stop stressing out about it. This then brings us to the second part of this issue, which is kind of a completely unique idea I haven't talked about in this video, and it relates back to the idea that World of Warcraft is a live service game that will be continuing forever. Roughly every 2 years, a new expansion with a plethora of new stories will release. And that is new story that you need to engage with. This is a topic that I talked a lot about recently in my Season of Discovery Let's Play series, where I experienced this in two different ways. The first is just my general experience with the game and the world, where I do love the world of Azeroth and I can continue loving the world and the story, but with how I don't enjoy the story anymore, I need to find a stopping point. Where I definitely enjoy learning about the world and how the characters in it have evolved since I originally quit the game, there comes a point where I feel like I just don't care anymore, where World of Warcraft will be moving forward in the future permanently, even if I'm not there with it anymore. I think this is an idea I see a lot with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where people really fall in love with the MCU, starting all the way back at the original Iron Man and the future movies released thereafter. But with the culmination of the Infinity Saga during Endgame, and as the MCU has progressed into the Multiverse Saga, people feel really differently towards the MCU, where the world and stories that they love and enjoy have kind of ended with Endgame, as there has been a massive shift in the last several movies. And while many people continue to enjoy the MCU and what comes out of it, a lot of people have also just caught it good, enjoyed the movies they watched, enjoyed their experiences watching those movies, and have moved on with their life. And that's okay. Similarly, people will always be moving on from World of Warcraft. They will enjoy the time they have spent playing the game and the stories they have experienced. But the new stories that have been introduced are no longer appealing to them, and they no longer have any interest in keeping up to date with every story that is being introduced to the game, and they will move on. And that is okay. And I think I am beginning my final process with World of Warcraft. I quit the game during Mr. Pandaria and kept up to date to a limited degree with the story over the years. As I returned to the game to play Classic, I have been playing through a little bit of those stories and I have continued to stay up to date with the game, but I think I am reaching a point where I feel very satisfied with my experience in the Warcraft universe, and while I will likely continue to engage with it for the next few years, and will probably play the classic versions of the game here and there for the rest of my life, I am content with not fully understanding the story from here on out. That's a world for other people to enjoy. This thing goes back to the other type of experience I have with this game, and that is my Let's Play series, where my initial goals with my Let's Play series was to be a complete experience of Vanilla, the Burning Crusade, and Wrath Lich King, where at times I thought it would be fun for it to be ultimately a complete experience of the entirety of World of Warcraft, but with the latter, because of my feelings with the game's story, it will definitely never be that. But in many ways, through my Let's Play series, my streams, and other videos, I have highlighted or plan to highlight pretty much every era in the game, where my Let's Play series has now evolved and will continue to evolve into a series with two aspects. The first is my nostalgia with the game, where I am definitely mostly highlighting Vanilla, the Burning Crusade, and Wrath of the Lich King, but I also want to highlight Cataclysm and Mist of Pandaria, and in a variety of different forms, I have and would like to continue to pay homage to each of World of Warcraft's expansions up to the modern day, and ultimately highlight and appreciate the world that World of Warcraft has, and the game that it will evolve into, where at that point, and combined with every other element that I have talked about in this video, I will truly feel content with this game's story and my experiences interacting with the story. And well, that was a lot of something. I feel like this was a relatively structured video, but just like any of my problems in gaming series, this was just a lot of random ranting about something I've been thinking a lot about recently. If I were to give a summary of the entire video, it would be this: live service games will have an ever-expanding story. Enjoy what you enjoy, engage with what you enjoy, and don't touch the rest. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, I hope you engage with this video by liking it and subscribing to my channel. And I would enjoy it if you would take good care of yourselves. Have a good one, everyone.